Hey everyone, my name is Nick. I'm a coach at OCD Recovery. Today we have my wife here, Erica. So Erica, want to give a little bit of a background about yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Erica. I'm Nick's wife. I'm the one who deals with him.
Yes. And that is, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about kind of the lead up to me developing chronic OCD, how our relationship went. But I want to open up by talking about what things were like for me for the first 10, 12 years before I met Erica. I always had mild OCD. My father has it. Other members of my family have it in different forms of chronicity. And eventually I realized after a while that there were kind of some quirks that were odd about myself. And I didn't really understand why I was doing them. So yeah, even before I met you, I always knew that there was something slightly off just because I had all those weird tendencies. You know, the cocoa butter lotion for, and at the time, obviously, I didn't think that was going to lead to sensory motor hyper-awareness OCD. But now looking back, I like what Steve Jobs says, you can only connect the dots looking backwards in his commencement speech at Stanford. And when I listen to that, I've listened to it numerous times, I think that makes so much sense when I look back and I see all those things that I didn't even realize what I was doing. I mean, it was so wild. I would go through a bottle or two of that a month, the big cocoa butter, and think, why do I have to apply this to my body? Why do I have to do all these weird checks? Why can't I look in the mirror without a shirt on? So I think it's good that we talk about the beginning of when we met. So, so what happened? We matched on Bumble and then
so
what?
We had both moved to Florida a couple of weeks before chiropractic school started. And I just wanted to get used to the area. I had moved to a different country. I came down from Canada to Florida, just wanted to get the lay of the land. And then, as all millennials do, or did, I guess at the time, probably still do, we were on dating apps and I matched with you and your profile said Palmer College of Chiropractic. And I said, I am not getting into anything with anybody before school even starts. And so I ignored the match and you extended the match as we were heading towards that 24-hour expiration date.
That's right.
And then I felt bad.
I felt bad.
So I started talking to you and I was like, if worst case, I can ask him what teachers are good, what classes are his favorite, just kind of get to know what to expect from school. So I did. And you said, oh, I actually start class in a few weeks. And I went, oh no, he's in my class and now I can't ignore him.
What happened the first time? What was my intro? Tell them what I was wearing, my outfit when we met at Chipotle.
You first asked me, not, hey, do you want to go on a date to Chipotle? It was, hey, want to eat Chipotle. Those were the words that you used. And being from Canada, we didn't really have Chipotle in Canada. I had it one time. I was like, okay, I don't know what Chipotle's like. Let's go to Chipotle. So we went to Chipotle and I got out of the car and you were getting out of your car at the same time, your Dodge Dart. And you were wearing these red basketball shorts with this black t-shirt and these red velvet shoes. And I was like, what is this guy wearing? And you had this bright red beard.
Yeah.
So I walk up to you and you put out your hand and you go, hey, I'm Nick. And I shook your hand. And we went inside, we got our food and we sat down. And I remember it was like I was in a job interview, answering question after question after question.
I never would have guessed on our first date that I would have ended up marrying you. I didn't think you were going to be my boyfriend even then.
Was the red beard not attractive?
No. No, it's funny.
What?
I felt like on our first date at Chipotle, I was in an interview, and now I'm literally in an interview at Chipotle.
I think it's really good to explain like how this exact kind of table, same restaurant, ended up being exactly where we met. So explain what the date was like for like 2 hours we were there.
A job interview. It was like you were interviewing me to be your wife as my job.
What was I even asking you?
And one of the questions was, how much trouble did you get in as a kid? And I said, I don't know. I probably got grounded at one point in high school. And he looked at me and he goes, okay, I did a lot worse.
No, that's not what I said. I said this. I said, I got a DUI in my underwear. That's what I said. Word for word.
I didn't want to be the one who said it.
Those days are gone. I've changed that. So
and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, My dad is a personal injury attorney and he sues guys like you. And that was a lot of fun. And I remember saying to him, we can never let dad know that story. And then your dad told my dad that story.
Yes, my dad was insane, completely crazy.
So
Rest his soul.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I remember after that Chipotle experience, I remember getting in the car. I texted my best friend from back home and I said, well, at least I made a friend to sit with in class. And then you were persistent for those 2 weeks leading up to school. And the 2 days before we started, we had our orientation at school. It was October 1st.
Yep.
And we were coming back from dinner. And you asked me, can I call you my girlfriend? And I said yes. So we went to orientation 2 days later. And people were like, how long have you guys been together? And we're like, 2 days.
Will you be my
And they
girlfriend?
thought we were crazy. And we probably were. Yeah. And we're lucky that it worked out.
So that's such a great way. I always forget about some of these details. So when did you know this? Or did you notice anything for the first 2 years that something was off about me? Or I
noticed weird tendencies.
What were some of the ones you noticed that
You had this bookshelf in the second room in your apartment where it was all of the courses that we were taking that quarter. And you took a cue card and taped it. This was microbiology. This was, whatever the class was. And you had each separate section for the class with all of your notebooks and textbooks and everything that would sit right there. And I was like, that's organization, I guess. That's good. But then there was also the macro counting, which drove me crazy. But you were counting macros religiously since I had known you. You had a notebook in the kitchen that you would write down all of the carbs, fats, and protein that you ate that
10 years I did that.
And not only did you do that, though, you kept every notebook from those 10 years that you wrote down. So I could have looked back to what you ate on December 1st, 2012, and I would have known that you had 300 grams of carbs that day. Not what you ate, but 300 grams of carbs.
Completely balanced. No obsessiveness.
So that was probably the weirder thing. And then you didn't, we would eat together, we would go out to dinner and whatever, but you would still go home and you would try to, I had about 50 grams of whatever.
Because Mellow Mushroom had the macros. And I would
that's part of why you loved going there.
Yeah, loved going there because I could take those macros and put that in there. It was incredible, in that way. So I thought that was great. What about the shirt one? You probably don't remember this, but I do remember you saying this almost 10 years ago. You said, maybe 8 years ago, usually when I'm dating a guy or guys at the house, they'll be in basketball shorts and no shirt on. She's like, you always wear a shirt, but you're in your underwear. It's flipped. And I always I had an excuse because remember, I didn't look in the mirror. People don't believe me. I did not look in the mirror head on with my shirt off for over 10 years. Not once. I would close my eyes. I would do this. I would look around. That's why I buy this.
I don't remember observing that.
It was bad.
Yeah. But I do remember the lotion thing, and you even did it with hand sanitizer, where you would take the bottle of hand sanitizer and sanitize your hands, which would have been a normal thing. But then you started doing it to your arms as well. And sometimes up into your head. And I was like, what are you doing?
I know. It was so crazy. And then you probably didn't see it because we dated for how long until you moved in, would you say?
What do you mean?
You moved into my place. How long were we dating before you moved in?
2 years.
2 years, right?
Just
and
over
then,
2 years, yeah.
Then you probably saw, that's when things got sketch.
Well, I moved in and then we got married a month later.
But that's when things got bad. That's when you realized
Well, not right when we got married. So leading up to all of this, your dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in August of 2017. So not even a year into us dating. And that's when stress really started hitting us. And I just remember sitting there as soon as he got diagnosed thinking this is so early in our relationship to go through something so heavy.
Oh, that was tough.
And so he got diagnosed in August. Things started getting harder for us just because you were dealing with preemptive grief. And we had started going to therapy because I wanted to know how to better support you. And I wanted to make sure you had a therapist to help you through the grief process. And then March of 2018 is when he passed away.
Yep.
And then your aunt and the family dog also died within the next 3 months.
Yes.
And then after that third death, you had a seizure in class that next week.
That was lovely. Yeah, I had multiple seizures.
So there was a lot that
Yeah.
went on prior to this. And in the summer following your dad's death, I just remember fighting with you so often.
Oh, God, it's bad.
That because you were wanting to smoke weed, you were wanting to smoke cigarettes, you wanted to drink more, and these were behaviors that prior to that I had never observed from you, and I was like, you're not coping with this well. Not that anybody is expected to cope with the loss of a parent at a young age or younger age well.
Yeah.
But I was getting really worried about you, and we were fighting constantly. And so that there was a lot of stress in that summer, I remember. It started getting better towards the end of the year. And then come February, that's when we got married.
Yes. Yeah.
So
That was nuts. Well, then it's crazy too because it's such a blur to me because there were so many things that were happening, and I would get these seizures, these like focal spots seizures without losing consciousness. Where I mean, the one I had in the bookstore, I'll never forget that one.
Yep.
I mean, I literally forgot who I was, where I was, you brat. Who I was, where I was, what my name was, what cancer my dad had, and everything else in between. So it's like that was a really crazy time
I
in my
remember
life.
you went sheet white,
Yep.
you were sweating.
You were like, who are you? And I was like, I don't know. I don't what type of cancer does your dad have? I don't know. But I would say things got pretty rocky. So I do think it got rocky pretty soon. I mean, you know, I had the adult website addiction. That was really bad for over 10 years. And at that point,
I didn't realize how bad it was until I lived with you.
That's what I was going to say. That's why when you moved in it, I realized it got bad. And then, I mean, let's just be frank. I mean, I think it's important to talk about this so people can really hear the realities of it from your point. Like, how bad was the problem? Like, adult websites, messaging other girls, like...
It was worse than I realized until I moved in. So I didn't know if that, again, was part of the stress or if that was part of a problem that you had prior to that. I didn't know just because I hadn't observed it. Obviously come to find out that it had been years of that kind of a behavior.
Then you caught me messaging other women multiple times.
Yeah.
We got numerous fights about that.
That almost ended our relationship.
Our relationship, bad. You know, and I don't even think in the beginning I wanted to admit it was a problem. I'm pretty sure like most addicts of any sort, I didn't want to. And then I think we kind of, from there, it was getting worse and worse and worse. And then what happened in June of 2019 when I woke up in the middle of the night?
So, in June of 2019, when you woke up in the middle of the night. Oh, the tinnitus,
Yeah.
So we got married February. 4 months later, you developed tinnitus, and it was very quick. And I couldn't hear it, but you were convinced, okay, no, this is coming from the air conditioning unit. You were putting your ear up against it. And I was like, Nick, I'm not hearing it. This is not coming from the air conditioning unit. Like, we don't need somebody in here. And then it switched. So the tinnitus, you bought a book that helped you habituate to that, and that was great.
But tell them how bad, because that was a 6-month period.
It was so bothersome to you that we had actually come out to Colorado and went to Oregon to look around to see whether or not one of those places were places that we wanted to move after graduation. And then we were on that vacation, and it was so disturbing to you that by the time we had gotten to Oregon, you did not want to get out of bed. And I got really mad because I'm like, we don't have any money to come out here, first of all. We don't have the money to be doing this. But if we're going to be here, I want to explore things. I want to see what the town is like. You know, do we like this place? But you were bothered by it in Colorado, and it just progressed over that week that it got so bad. And so you just did not want to get out.
I forgot about the meltdown I had in the hotel next to the radiator. Remember in Oregon?
I don't even remember that.
I was on the ground crying at 3 a.m, and you were like, I think you realized in that moment like how severe it really was.
Mm-hmm.
But remember when I embarrassed myself in front of like 600 people because I couldn't row a boat? Tell that story. That's so good.
Because you were so frustrated just in existing.
Great story coming up here.
I was frustrated with you. I'm like, I want to go do things. I wanted to go kayaking. They have a river in Bend, and I wanted to go kayaking on the river. So I had rented kayaks for the day. And he had never been kayaking, to be fair. But I get out in the kayak, and I'm paddling away, and I'm heading out. and they get him in the kayak, and there's like a little drop, little tiny rapids. I wouldn't even call them rapids, but if it's your first time doing it, I can understand why it would be concerning or scary. And it was just a little bit down the river so he's like trying to kayak and he can't do it. He can't figure it out. Within 2 minutes of being in the kayak, he's like, I'm not doing this. This is stupid. Gets out of the kayak. And so I'm like, well, I'm not ruining my day at this point. I'm going to keep going. So I start kayaking down the river, and he's walking down the river, and he's so mad. Like, I can't believe that you didn't get out of the water. And he was so mad at me for continuing to kayak down the river. And I'm like, I paid good money for this. I'm kayaking down the river.
And now we see why we always talk about the importance of building frustration tolerance, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then what happened was we came back, we were driving in Ponce Inlet, and I remember thinking, what are some other things? And this is kind of how OCD operates in this way with
you
the
had
morphing.
started getting better. Like, you had read this book.
Yep.
You were slowly starting to get better. I can't remember if it was July or August at this point. But we were driving down by the beach, and you were literally saying, I feel so much better. That book helped so much. I barely even noticed the tinnitus now, and it's not bothering me. Oh. And then you stopped talking, which, for anybody who has ever tuned into the OCD channel before, know that he talks a lot. And so it's a red flag. It's a little bit of a red flag if he stops talking. And so I was like, you know what? Just let him, whatever's going on, let it go on. And so we turned the car around to come back to the house. And he looked at me and he goes, I can't stop thinking about my blinking. And I was just 5 minutes earlier been so relieved that we were finally getting to a place where he wasn't balled up in a corner somewhere, bothered by the tinnitus so badly. And I went, I remember thinking, oh my God, not another thing. So I looked at you and I was like, let's just get home. And, maybe by tomorrow we'll go to sleep. Maybe by tomorrow it'll be gone. And of course it wasn't. But I remember you having a full panic attack by the time that we had gotten back to the apartment.
Yep.
And it was, was the start of
that was the start of my sensory motor, was like really, really, really bad, Yeah. So then what happened after that, which was really insane, was, that was the start of when it got really bad. That's when my adult website addictions got out of control. That's when I was doing smoking and vaping. I was playing video games 70 plus hours a week. By the way, nobody believes me when I tell them that. The amount of people are like, you weren't playing video games 70 hours a week. I'm like, I just don't think you understand.
But you were.
I was. Well, we played for 24 hours straight and drink Monsters at 2 a.m.
That also almost ruined our marriage. That was, at this point, I was going through the green card process, and if I was going to leave you, I had to be dead certain that this is actually what I wanted, because if I abandoned that green card process, there's also a potential that I could never be let back into the country, which my family spends Christmas in Florida every year. So that would have affected not just me, but the rest of the family too. So
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. The video game problem got so severe. I would go to bed by myself and then wake up in the morning, and you would still be down there. And I would go down there and I would say, did you sleep at all last night? And you would lie to me. Like I didn't know that you were lying. Your bed was still like you had not been to bed. And you were like, no, I just got up really early and started playing again. And
what a great habit.
I'm not stupid.
I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do what? To play Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you were doing that. I remember bargaining with you, being like, can you please, just for a week, please stop playing video games? And you were like, okay. And then it would be one day and then you'd be back at it again.
How many Jewel containers were I throwing out the window too? Remember all that?
I lost count.
It was ridiculous.
I lost count. You spent hundreds of dollars on those.
I would buy the rig and actually take the rig, and I would throw the rig out, have an existential crisis and be like, I need more of this, and buy it again. It wasn't just the Jewel pods. It was the whole rig. That was like $38.
And you had to throw it out the window when we were driving. I don't understand.
I know. I literally would have a meltdown in that moment. And that's when it really got, that's when, November of 2019, I was in the mental hospital. So I think an important question for you would be, what made you stay? What really was going through your mind? Why did you stay? Let's be very frank here.
If I'm being totally honest, there were two things. One is the green card thing, because this wouldn't have just impacted me.
Lovely.
It would have impacted my whole family. There was a risk that they wouldn't be able to spend Christmas in Florida every year, or I'd be in Canada spending Christmas by myself. So it wasn't just about me. It was like I needed to make sure that because this would have impacted beyond myself. So that was part of it. But then the other part was that, and I don't know how else to explain it other than saying there was this voice inside of me saying, stay, he'll get through it. And I might get emotional for this, but if you've ever been like the relationship I was in previous to you, it was toxic. It was not a good relationship. But there was always a gut feeling that this was never going to change. And it was right. But when it came to you and this problem, the voice was different. It was like, he's going to get through this. And there's no way that I can explain it beyond that.
It's wild.
So it was just this gut feeling that I had. So really it was those two things. Like I didn't know where to draw the line of at what point does this become worth leaving? And you have to remember too, this was all mid-COVID. So if I left, first of all, we didn't have any money for me to go stay at a hotel even for a night. We were completely broke. So I had to stay at the house. And if I was going to leave the house, I would have to go to Canada. But the border was shut down also at this time. So if you were going to cross the border, you had to do like the whole 2-week whatever quarantine in Canada. There was so much going into that decision that made it so hard to make a decision because there were so many moving factors that influenced it. It wasn't like the border was open and I could just go home for a weekend. And it's not like my family could come out and visit to support me for a weekend either.
Wow.
So I was completely isolated at this point. So there were just so many factors that were like, if I'm going to leave, there's so many things that have to happen and so many repercussions from this that, it has to be worth it. But there was still this voice saying he'll get through it. And so
What was the first sign that you were like...
That you got rid of the video games.
Yep, which was May 4th, 2020. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I was in a rough spot for a lot longer after that. But that was at least a step in the right directions. I didn't get rid of adult websites for almost 2 years after that. It was January 2022. So I struggled with all that for a while. That was really, really bad. I still smoked for a while. I still did all of that. Mm-hmm. And, this is another good question, too, because this is probably the most important question so far. What was so important? Or how did you, 2 parts, how did you neglect your own health when we were going through this? Because you lost quite a bit of weight. Mm-hmm. And we're drinking more wine, understandably so, versus to what did you realize that this is not good for me? Like, what would you recommend to people who are in your shoes from the loved one's perspective?
Well, I remember struggling to go and exercise because you were so suicidal. I was afraid to leave the house for any extended period of time. You didn't know this, but I had turned on your location on your phone. I had taken your phone while you were playing video games. I turned it on so I could see where you were. So at the time when we were working in another clinic and I was the rule was that if we had patients, we were to be at the clinic, and if we didn't, we were to go home. Yep. That was the COVID rule. Yep. And so if I was at work and you were at home, I wanted to be able to see, is he going to a gun store? Is he driving towards the mountains? Because you would threaten to drive off a cliff.
How many times did I drive off in the middle of the night?
Tons of times.
Yep. Screaming, you're banging on the hood of my car at 3 a.m. it was
really bad.
It was really bad.
So I wanted to be able to see your location, to see where you were going, so that I could know, is he in the middle of a crisis? Do I have to call 911? What does that look like? But I was afraid to go to the gym because, again, if it didn't feel necessary to leave the house, I didn't want to. So I remember, you Google how to support somebody through this, and there's really not a lot of helpful information. It's a WebMD article of take care of yourself and make sure you're eating well and all of these generic things. Okay, but where on that list does it say, okay, you finally got to the gym, and this literally happened. I got to the gym, I had finally parked my butt on a exercise bike for the first time in 2 weeks, and had been on that bike for about 5 minutes, and you texted me saying,
this.
Where did you hide all the pills? And I was like, okay, first of all, haven't been in the gym in 2 weeks. I'm trying to do the thing that this stupid article says to do. And now my husband is looking for the pills and I have to go home. So I got off the bike, I sped home, and you had laid all of the Keppra pills that they had given you after the seizure. You found them and you had laid them all out in a line on the counter. And you were sitting up, not these stairs, but you were sitting up in the stairs and you were just catatonic. Like there was nothing behind your eyes. You were sitting in the stairs and I said, what? I hadn't noticed the pills at this point. I said, what did you do with the pills? I thought you were catatonic because you took them. I was screaming at you, what did you do with the pills? And I finally found them in the kitchen and calmed down a little bit. But you weren't saying anything. There was nothing in your eyes. Like I was like waving in front of nothing. There was nothing happening. And so it scared the crap out of me. And that's part of the reason I struggled so bad to take care of myself, because I was like, if I don't have to leave the house, I don't want to, because I don't know what I'm going to come home to.
And the OCD suffer themselves. They don't think about the damage they do to, not like in a shame or guilt way.
I think it's hard
Yeah.
when you're in that kind of a state to see beyond yourself.
Oh, it's impossible.
It's
impossible.
So you don't really recognize what you're doing to your loved ones. And I think part of the problem too is just, let's say we weren't married, we didn't live under the same roof, I was just your friend, and I knew that you were going through something like this, but I didn't understand the extent of it. If you started yelling at me the way that you yelled at me at that time, I would have been like, I can't be your friend anymore. And so, again, people don't necessarily recognize the reality of what it's like to actually support somebody when they're at their worst. It's hard. It's really hard.
And then obviously, cops come to the house, 2 or 3 times and everything.
And at one point they sent backup because they could hear you yelling at me over the phone.
This is something that nobody hears from the loved one. And I just want you to be honest, and this is not going to be easy for people to hear, because they hear it from us and people get angry. Be straight truthful. How bad is the majority of the OCD information, and why will it not get us better?
Well, when we first moved out here, because I knew it was OCD, I was like, okay, then I need to find you an OCD specialist, because the therapist that we had been seeing in Florida was not helping. In fact, she was making it worse. And she helped me a lot, but I don't think she understood what was going on with you.
Well-intentioned.
She was very well-intentioned. She helped me a lot with setting boundaries and, being okay with saying, you are not supposed to treat me that way.
Yeah.
However, she did not help you. I don't think that she understood OCD at all. And then so we moved out here. I was like, okay, well, the regular therapist didn't understand, but now I have to find a specialist because they should understand. And so I set up this appointment for you, and you went and you go in there. And I remember you called me and you're like, there's no way I'm going back there. And I was like, why? What happened? And you were like, I sat down and I said, I have somatosensory OCD. And she said, what's that? And this is a specialist.
I felt
that's like
so dark in that moment. I remember that on that couch.
That's like going to an oncologist and saying you have breast cancer. And they're like, what's breast cancer? So I was just like, what is happening here? What are we supposed to do if the specialist is saying, what's that? And luckily you found Rob and you found resources online, thank God, because that's when you finally started turning around and the video games went away. So I am so grateful for that.
Yeah. Rob really, we don't give Rob enough credit. But Rob really did save my life in many ways. Without Robert Bray, there would be no Nick.
He saved our marriage.
Rob saved our marriage.
At this point, we can say OCD was the best thing that ever happened to us. At the time, it was hell. It was absolute hell. But you going through your recovery process with him made you a better husband, better than what you were before. You're so stupid. So when I remember sitting there being like, where is my husband? What happened to him? This is not the man that I married 4 months ago.
He also ate the man that he was, because he gained 50 pounds.
Yes, that too. Gained a whole person.
My waist went, this is no joke, my waist went from a 32, these are 32s, to a 36 was rough. And it was because I would eat 9,000 calories of McDonald's every day
Yeah.
for happiness.
A happy meal. But you going through that turned you into a better husband, just in general, better than the person that you were prior to that. And again, I remember asking, where did my husband go? And I've been asked since all of this, do you feel like you have your husband back? And I say, no, I have a better version of him than the person that I married. So I'm very grateful for that. But it also helped me in realizing and understanding for myself, irrational beliefs and how they play a role in your own mental suffering. It doesn't even just have to be OCD. But it also helped me open my eyes, because as a supporter, you want to believe that saying things like it's all going to be okay and whatever is going to be helpful. But going through this, I had to realize that reassurance is, first of all, that's the first thing that I want to jump to, is saying it's going to be okay. And I think that's a natural tendency. For
Totally natural. Yeah, absolutely.
But it opened my eyes to say what you think is right might not be right. And that goes across the board. It's not just with OCD recovery. It could be with anything. So it's taught me to be a lot more open-minded in my approach to most things. I could be wrong about, truly anything. So it humbled me, I think, a little bit.
Because you read the book, you read the Ellis book.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, you read, yep.
So I read the books too, but it was a helpful process for me to go through, just because I learned a lot, and I think it's made our communication in general a lot better. We obviously still have our moments when things get heated that
I don't get angry.
So
only on the golf course, okay?
Oh my God. So it's made our communication a lot better for the most part.
Yeah.
There's days where we need help. I don't know. In the long run, it's been the best thing that we could have gone through and come out the other side. I think if I had left, then I would be saying something otherwise. But it definitely was the best thing for us to go through.
If you left, I definitely would be pro Call of Duty.
And you'd still be single, and you'd still be.
I would not be single. I would be dating another female pro at Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
Just let me tell myself that, okay? So, but no, I think, and the one last thing, I think, two things. How important was it truly? Because this is what we talk about all the time, and you get to see it from the outside perspective. How important was it for me to actually change my beliefs? Not just change my behaviors, but really think about how I can't stand it.
I think it was life-changing.
Yeah.
Because you are prone to anger. And I think a lot of men are. But you are prone to anger. And I think, come here, buddy. I think it helped you be able to see things from a more rational perspective and therefore get less angry less often. Up until this very specific point, the fighting with you was very me versus you. Because I felt neglected. You were playing video games constantly. And so it was just this constant battle of me being against you all the time. And I was walking Daisy, and there was a snowstorm outside. And I remember trudging through the snow, being bitter that I was the only one walking her because you were not doing anything. And I don't know what prompted this thought, but I thought to myself, Erica, what if you could only think the same handful of thoughts all day long? And my immediate answer to that was, well, that would drive me crazy. And I was like, oh, holy shit. Like, that's why he's suffering so bad.
I forgot about that. I remember you told me that when it happened. I forgot about that.
That was just like the light bulb moment to me. And I remember like the outcome of that thought process was, I have to be on Nick's team no matter what. Like, I have to stop this battle between the two of us. It has to be us against the OCD. It can't be me versus him, because that's just another front that he's fighting. And he's never going to get anywhere if he's fighting a battle on two fronts. He's never going to make progress. I have to help him on that one front. So whatever Rob tells me to do, I have to do it, because that's the only way that he's going to get better. Like, if I have to hold him accountable to getting up in the morning and not sleeping in, I have to do that, because that's that's what's going to get him better. If I keep adding in this fight between the two of us, we're never going to make any progress.
No. Because what was my go-to phrase? I mean, I can't stand it. I hate my life. This is the worst thing ever. I mean, we talk about
it's not fair.
It's not fair. Oh my gosh. See, it's funny because people
and then you would use that against me for not having OCD. You would get mad that I don't have OCD, and I would look at you and say, would that make this better if both of us were sitting here stuck in OCD? Would that make this better? I don't think it would. I think it would make it much worse.
OCD sufferers are terrible at that. You know, and again, it's understandable, but it's not okay. You know, things are understandable and acceptable in that way, but you know, they're not. They're, you know, we have to accept the overall situation, but it's not good that we do that. You know, but I think that the closing thing I want to talk about, which is really important for most people, is just what would you like final recommendations? Because I have done. We're at the point now, the company is so big. We work with dozens and dozens of countries, you know, 70, 80, 90 countries I've never even heard of at times. What would be like your number one recommendation for a mom, dad, brother, sister, loved one, friend of like, this is what you got to do for yourself? Not so much for us, but for you. So you don't lose 20 pounds or revert to some wine. Like, what would you say is the number one thing?
I don't know that there's any one specific thing. I would say that it's important for you to also go through this journey, meaning what I said earlier, it's important for you to learn everything that the OCD recovery person is learning. So the sufferer is learning, because it applies to you too. Part of the reason you're probably getting so upset is because you have your own set of irrational beliefs that are contributing to it. And so I think that that's really important. I think it's really important to put your own ego aside and realize you might be wrong in what needs to happen here. And I remember at one point realizing that, because I wanted to fix everything for you, because I felt like I was more capable of fixing it than you were, because you were so deep into your mental health issues. And I wanted to fix it so badly for you. But then I had to come to terms at some point being like, Erica, that process is literally stealing a learning opportunity from him. And he will always rely on you if you continue doing that. And so I had to put my own ego aside and say, this is not my lesson. This is not, I don't necessarily know what's best here. So I'm going to divert to Rob, because he was the one that you were working with. I'm going to divert to Rob. What do I do in this situation? He told me you have to stop reassuring him. And that was super uncomfortable for a long time.
Your new phrase literally became, I can close my eyes and see so many situations, you screaming at me at the top of the stairs, understandably so. I wanted reassurance, and you know what you need to do. You know what you need to do. You would just, and it would just drive me, because it's like a drug addict that you're taking away the drug that we want, you know, and I think that's, and I appreciate this. I mean, this video is going to be so important for people, because there's already such little correct information on any mental health. I mean, it's not just OCD, it's PTSD and CPTSD, GAD, panic disorder, loss of a loved one. I mean, how do you talk to someone who's lost their kid in a car accident? I mean, like, there's so many things where beliefs need to be worked on. It can't just be, I'm going to get back to life and go to the gym. Your belief about you lost a child in a motor vehicle collision, that will eat you alive without a belief change of acceptance. But I think a good thing to kind of end on a transition is where we are now. You know, go from, I like to call it the compliment sandwich. We started with some funny stuff, then we talked about that. And I think it's good to talk to people about where we are now. We're having a child that we are naming Giovanni.
No, we're not. If anything, this is our biggest fight.
I want to name, put that camera in me. I want to name our kid Giovanni Anthony Pinella. I also like Cicero Anthony Pinella.
Oh,
can you imagine? He come out in like Roman robes, like just like a ancient philosopher.
Okay, but
with ADHD.
Anyways.
So what are we naming our kid?
Roman.
So
he could also come out with Roman robes on.
This is true. He could. Roman Anthony Pinella. 9 weeks on Monday. Holy crap, that's crazy. And then I would say it's like our marriage is as good as it could be with learning lessons as they go. And right, but I think the one thing is when we have things that we don't get right, either one of us, we pull ourselves, we learn quick. Nothing lasts for like hours or days. We're very good at compromise for the most part. We're very good, I would say, to apologizing to each other. Usually it's 90% me. I do something stupid like spill a smoothie on this chair yesterday and go, oh, dude, and take my shirt off and just do this and rub it with my shirt. And she's like, what are you doing? I was like, I mean, that's a guy for you right there. Clean.
No, I think that's just
like
you.
Let me include everyone.
No,
Tristan
I don't think they want to be
Tristan and his
included in
brother are included in this, okay, whether they like it or not. So, but I think, that's really good. And I think that just, it's so crazy to think about from my perspective too. I mean, all the adult website stuff, all the frustration tolerance changes. I mean, it's changed my whole perception. I mean, if you asked me 5 years ago, do you want to be married, monogamous, with children? I would just have laughed in your face and been like, those are dumb people. Those are people that, I mean, I remember what I would say. I would say, those are people that, just another way to say it, those are just people that can't get what they want. Like,
let me put it this way. I don't think I would be sitting here, I mean, today, and since we've been talking about actually having, like, trying to have kids, I don't think I would be sitting here having that conversation with you had you not gone through this.
Yeah. No, there's no way.
Because I don't know that, if I'm being brutally honest, I don't know that that is the environment I would have wanted to raise a kid in.
Oh, no. No.
So, with all of that, I think you're going to be a good dad because of this.
Oh, it's going to be, I think it's, the hardest thing about it is going to be, I mean, I've already fully accepted this. I mean, I think a lot of parents don't want to look at this. The chances of our kid having the obsessive compulsive disorder gene is basically 100%. They're going to have it.
Well, that's not how genes work, but
listen,
not on my side of the family.
Just let me misinterpret genes in front of all these people. They could be like, I thought this kid was intelligent. Now he's an idiot. So, but
high chance.
High chance.
Yes.
Right? My favorite thing to say, right? 99.9% chance, which still would be incorrect. But we'll have the ability to see things from a young age. But, how many parents, I'm not bringing a kid into this world. Like, that's so wrong. They have OCD. No, that's not. I don't like that. Like, I'm going to bring a child into this world.
But we can also, even if they have that predisposition or whatever, they have the gene, we can still raise them in a way that, like, we can start talking to them about irrational beliefs before any of those signs even come up. When we start hearing should or must or something like that coming from them, then we can take that as an opportunity to start preemptively planting that seed before it becomes a problem.
You must play golf. You must go the ultra when you're 18. You have no choice.
Remember at the beginning when I said I deal with him?
There is no country. I must not listen to country music, right? I should. Those are really the ones I care about. Golf, techno.
You like country music, don't you?
I know, I do. I just was listening to Chicken Fried like 4 times in a row, and I sing it in the bathroom with my horrible voice. Didn't I ask you one time if I have a good voice? I think I've done that before. I was like, do I have an okay voice? And you're like, no, you suck. Don't speak. Okay, so we want to give some advice for couples. Before I let Erica talk, I want to talk about from the sufferer perspective real quick. I do think it's very important to try and realize that your loved ones, whether it's a lover, a mom, a dad, a brother, or sister, they are going through their own journey, if they're living with you or not. If they're close to you and you're using them for reassurance, it is important to realize that they are struggling as well. Sure, they might not be struggling as much as you are in the OCD sense, but that doesn't matter. Don't hold them against them. I did that and it wasn't good. So I think for you, what would you say is some final piece of advice for the loved ones that you went through that you think will really be helpful for them?
I think in the beginning, it's really important to hold them accountable to what it is that they need to do. So, for example, for things like you getting out of bed, making sure that you are getting out of bed. Over time, you do need to wean off of that because they need to learn to do it on their own. But I think if you want to be helpful in the beginning, that is a really big piece of it. But then the second is the reassurance part. Not giving into the reassurance part, just saying, okay, if they say something where they're trying to dig and get reassurance. I know that you did that a lot. And I just had to look at you, and it felt gross, but I said, okay. You know, you were saying these really horrible things, and my response was okay.
Drove
that
me
was it.
Nuts.
So,
Drove me absolutely bonkers.
but I think that's a really big piece too, but definitely the accountability as well for
Would you say-
maintaining structure.
Would you say reading the books, especially the first book, Start Really Refuse, can be
I
important?
think if you want to be the best support system that you can be, I think reading the books is really valuable. Obviously, maybe let them read it first, but then if you read it, then you can also understand what they're trying to do a little bit better so that you can hold them accountable. Because if you don't read it, then you might not know exactly what it is that they're trying to do.
And I think the last thing I want to say for me first of all, thank you for all the support over the years of watching all the content and all the content that's going to come. I do want to say that even though everything that we went through, and I think you would agree on this, I actually do not know if our relationship would be nearly as strong as it is today if we didn't go through this.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to go out there and develop OCD to develop a good, strong relationship. Maybe. So, but in all seriousness, I am very grateful for what I've learned from the experience and you sticking by my side. The closest I'll come to crying. You're not going to see it yet. Soon, I feel it, but without it, I wouldn't be here where I am today. So, I love you.